Will the Buffalo Bills special teams stabilize in 2026? We're going to explore that today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of the Herd Mentality Substack, co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, co-host of the NFL First Read Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Locked On Bills is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. Well, folks, welcome in. I'm excited to talk special teams with you on today's episode. I woke up this morning to a message in our Discord channel from someone who said, Joe, you're not going to do the special teams review and outlook? And I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so we're going to do it right now, even though maybe I wasn't originally planning on doing this. But I'm glad someone asked the question and it prompted me to think, yeah, I got to do it. So we're doing it right now. So we will focus in today on the kickers, the punters, the snappers. We'll talk about the return game and look back and look ahead as it relates to the Bills special teams. Now let's start by giving you some numbers on the Bills special teams. In terms of their own kick return average, the Bills averaged 27.9 yards per kick return, fourth best in the NFL. Obviously, Ray Davis and the unique schemes of Chris Tabor there really helped propel that. Punt return average, not as good of a story to tell. Only 6.5 yards per punt return. That was 28th in the NFL. In terms of opponent kick return average, that was 26.1 yards, 17th in the NFL, so middle of the pack there. But the Bills were really good at covering punts. The opponent's punt return average was 7.4, seventh best in the NFL. In terms of making field goals, kicking field goals, the Bills were good at that. They made 90.5% of their field goals, eighth highest in the NFL, and opponents made 92% of field goals against the Bills. That's 26th in the NFL. So you want that to be a lower percentage, right? You want teams to miss field goals against you, and they didn't do that too often against the Bills in 2025. And the last metric I'll give you right here is penalties. The Bills had 26 special teams penalties, fifth most in the NFL. So obviously that is something I hope will improve significantly. Fifth most special teams penalties. All right, so let's get into the individual parts now that we've kind of set the tone here with where they were metrically. We'll start with the kickers, and we'll talk about the Bills kicker who didn't kick at all in 2025, and that's Tyler Bass, a 2020 draft pick. He's going to turn 29 on Valentine's Day, so 29 years old, and he's entering year 3 of his 4-year, $20 million deal. And the Bills do have the opportunity to get out of this deal. They could cut him now, and they would free up $2.9 million in cap space, and that would also accumulate $2 million in dead cap this year. Now, they could also wait until after June 1st to release Tyler Bass, and they would get $4 million in cap savings after June 1st. So you don't get the $4 million until after June 1st, but you could do that, and then you would get $1 million in dead cap this year, $1 million in dead cap for 2027. Obviously, he didn't play in 2025, so there's not really a season to reflect on other than acknowledging that he had somewhat of a weird injury, right? I mean, they shut him down, they ramped him back up, they shut him back down, and then he has a surgery and gets shut down permanently, something to do with his pelvic area, which is concerning for a kicker. Now, Brandon Beane has come out and said he expects Tyler Bass to be the kicker in 2026. And if he's healthy, all right, it makes sense. He's under contract. He's had some good moments for you. He's also struggled at times. And maybe finding a different answer would be tough, but I would want to see how he looks kicking post-injury. That would inform my decision. And I would certainly leverage that opportunity for a post-June 1st release if you get him back in the building for some OTAs and, some of the camps that will happen in May, and you feel like, I just don't feel like he's progressing. Well, then I think you leverage that June 1st release and, find yourself a new kicker. But as of now, the messaging is that they're counting on Tyler Bass to be the kicker in 2026. Let's talk about Matt Prater, who obviously stepped in and did a phenomenal job. He's 41 years old, though. He's going to turn 42 in August. This dude came in and, including the playoffs, went 23 of 25, 92%. And he had 2 missed field goals. Neither one mattered. They both came in wins, in convincing wins against Miami and the win against Kansas City. Those were his 2 missed field goals. Didn't matter. Now, he did miss 3 extra points, so he was 52 of 55 at extra points. And 2 of those did not matter. One against Carolina, one against Pittsburgh. The one against Houston certainly changed that game. But then this dude has that injury late in the season, right? And that was a dicey couple weeks where the Bills were really without a viable kicker, and you certainly feel like that was consequential in that Philly loss. But he comes back into the playoffs, and he's perfect. He goes 6 of 6 on extra points, 5 of 5 on field goals, including 2 from beyond 50. And he had to make that field goal against Denver to send it to overtime. And he hit a 50-yarder against Jacksonville. The guy came in and was terrific. So as for the 2026 outlook, my position on Matt Prater is like, look, 42 years old, but if we need you, can you come on back for another year? And the Bills obviously have a new special teams coordinator, Jeff Rodgers, who has a deep history with Matt Prater. In fact, Matt Prater's rookie season in 2013 with Denver, Jeff Rodgers was the special teams coordinator. And then when Prater was in Arizona, Jeff Rodgers was his special teams coordinator 2018 through 2024, like recent, deep history. So it's nice to kind of know, like, hey, if we need you, man, you want to kick in your age 42 season, come on down. Now, there's limitations because, he's not going to be one of these kickers that's going to drill from 60, but I think he gives you a chance from like 55 and in. And I had confidence in Prater. Like, it happened pretty quickly that I was pretty sure he was going to go out there and make kicks, and he certainly did that. Now, there's one other kicker that we need to talk about, and it's Maddox Trujillo, who the Bills signed to a futures deal. And he is on this offseason roster. He is right now one of 2 kickers under contract, Tyler Bass and Maddox Trujillo. 22 years old. He was a college kicker at Austin Peay and Temple. Now, he didn't have very good numbers in college. He was 54 of 75, 72% in college. But he did hit from 64 at Lincoln Financial Field, which, of course, outdoors, Philadelphia, grass. He made from 64. He also hit from 60 against UConn. He was 6 of 10 from beyond 50 for his career. And his distribution of field goal percentage based on distance is kind of goofy. This guy went 13 of 16 from 20 to 29. He missed 3 field goals inside of 29 yards in college. He was 30 of 39, or excuse me, 73% from 30 to 39 yards. And then he was 70% make percentage from 40 to 49, and then 6 of 10 from beyond 50. So he was definitely a little shaky. I will say this, kicking in college is a lot harder. The hash marks are wider. It can make for some difficult angles. There's been a lot of kickers that maybe didn't have the best college stats that were wind up being good NFL players. So he has that college career. He finishes it at Temple, and then he was an undrafted free agent this year with the Colts. And he was part of their offseason. He went 4 for 4 on extra points in the preseason. That's all he did. And then he was waived in late August with an injury settlement, and now he's with the Bills. And so right now, Tyler Bass's competition is the 22-year-old Maddox Trujillo, who has a big leg, obviously. He's made from 64, but a shaky college career, and he didn't win the Colts job, obviously, and maybe the injury factored in. But he's part of the mix. So maybe it's Tyler Bass. If he can't go, maybe it's Trujillo. If he can't go, maybe you call up your buddy Matt Prater. So I don't know if any of those three paths are interesting or attractive for you, but that's kind of where the Bills are at with the kicker position. All right, coming up next, I want to talk punters, and the Bills will need to figure out their answer there for 2026. We'll touch on Reed Ferguson and discuss the return situation as well. So, folks, be sure to stick with me. The Winter Games are officially here, and if you're anything like us, you're locking in for events you only get to see on the biggest stage every 4 years. And that's why following the Winter Games on FanDuel just makes sense. From medal counts to individual events to finding your angle on the sports you care about most, FanDuel gives you more ways to stay connected to the action. You'll have the drama of those curling matches that get intense, fast, speed skating races decided by inches, hockey games that feel different right from the opening face-off. Even niche events become must-watch when you're fully locked into the competition, and FanDuel keeps the entire Olympic experience engaging from start to finish. The Winter Games are on, and there's no better way to follow them than with FanDuel. FanDuel, play your game. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't the right fit, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs puts your post at the top of the page and helps reach the right candidates faster. If I need to hire someone, I go straight to Indeed and be very specific about what I need. And instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs helps your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. It's going to boost your post to the people who are the best match for your role, and that makes a huge difference. So you can spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of this show get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Just go to Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL right now and support the show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring, do it the right way with Indeed. All right, welcome back, folks. Let's talk punters. And the Bills went through several punters this year, 3 of them. Started off with Brad Robbins. He's no good. Then you bring in Cam Johnson. He gets hurt and is out for the year. And then you settle on Mitch Wishnowski. So let's focus our conversation there. He was an in-season free agent signing. That's 33 years old. He'll turn 34 in March. His contract, of course, is expired. I thought he did a good job for the Bills. I really do. Since taking over in week 5, his punts were only returned an average of 28.9% of the time. That's the 3rd lowest in the NFL. He was 9th in average hang time at 4.44 seconds, and his 6.3 yards per return was 4th best in the NFL. I thought he did a good job. Now, he didn't necessarily consistently hit boomers. And of course, he did have a lot of punts that weren't returned, but I think that says a lot about his ability to kind of directional punt and kind of pin some of those returners up against the sideline that I think opened the door for like really mitigating potential returns. So I thought he did a good job. Of course, the holding piece is always important for being a punter. Obviously, there was no real issues at all with Matt Prater kicking field goals. And then also Wishnowski handled a lot of the kickoff duties, or handled all of the kickoff duties when Prater was working through his own injury. And that's an important thing that he can fill in and do. And that's something he's done throughout his career as a kickoff guy. So a guy that does a lot for you as a punter. I thought he did a good job. Obviously not a long-term answer, but if he was back as the Bills punter, I'd be completely fine with that. One thing to keep an eye on here in terms of who the Bills' next punter might be, Blake Gillikin, who was Arizona's punter for the last 3 years with Jeff Rodgers. He's a free agent, and he's been a really good punter. Like, this would be, you probably have to pay him a little bit, but he's been an upper echelon punter. So that connection to Jeff Rodgers, plus obviously he's a free agent. The Bills currently don't have a punter. You could see this being a potential path the Bills go down. Real quick on long snappers, Reed Ferguson. He's been the long snapper since 2017. He turns 32 in March. He's entering year 2 of his 4-year, $6.5 million contract. I see absolutely no reason to mess with this. Reed Ferguson's a good snapper. He's reliable. Just, you get a good snapper, you just keep him around forever until they're done playing, and I think that's what you do with Reed Ferguson. He did a good job. I don't really feel like there was any consistency issues or anything that leads me to believe that the Bills need to be looking for a new long snapper. Now, they will need to find some answers in the return game. Maybe not so much the kick return game. Obviously, Ray Davis was an all-pro. Had 40 kick returns. Brandon Codrington had 14. Ty Johnson, 11. Curtis Samuel had a couple, 9 actually, and McCole Hardman had 2 kick returns, not punt returns. And with all due respect to the season that Ray Davis had, he's a really good year, really satisfied with it. I don't know that it's his skill set specifically that was the reason he was an all-pro. I think he was he does have a good skill set for returning kicks. It's kind of what I've talked about. I think you need to be able to break a tackle. He's got that dense build and can handle that traffic around his feet. And, he's got that ability to kind of break a tackle. He's got some speed. He's not certainly not a burner. But I think when they went to that single returner with the fullback and really just made them run plays, Ray Davis was able to be productive. And I think he should have the opportunity to continue as a kick returner. But I wouldn't say that, he's a guy that just put him on any team, right? He'll be an amazing kick returner. But I think he should be the guy next year, obviously, as a kick returner. The problem is he doesn't help you at punt return, where the Bills have the bigger need. We talked about this. The Bills were one of the worst teams in the NFL in terms of average punt return. And Khalil Shakir was the primary punt returner last year. He had 16 punt returns, 10 fair catches. That was more than anyone else. Brandon Codrington had 10 returns, 4 fair catches, and then McCole Hardman and Keon Coleman had a couple of chances to do it. Khalil Shakir, what I like about him is that he's very good in terms of handling the football. You know that you're going to get the ball back to Josh Allen. It might not be with great field position, but he can handle that. He's also the number 1 receiver, that the Bills have in terms of yards and targets. And so, it's not like he's super high volume, but you do want to make sure that he's optimized for your offense. And I think the Bills need to find a punt returner. It'd be nice for them to get somebody on this roster that handles this and maybe offers a little value. Maybe it's a depth receiver, a depth player at defensive back. But I am hopeful that they find somebody that can handle these punt return duties and, give this Bills offense a little bit more when the defense gets a stop, right? Try to maximize those drives with shorter fields. So that punt return piece is definitely something for Brandon Beane to get figured out this offseason. All right, so there you have it. At kicker, they got Bass and Trujillo, both in the mix. We'll see where that goes. They'll need to sign a punter. There's currently none under contract. Reed Ferguson, we're continuing there at snapper, I certainly hope. And then you can go back to Ray Davis for kick return, but you need to find a punt returner. That's where the Bills are at with special teams, and obviously with a new coach and Jeff Rodgers, also need to get those penalties down. I would like for the Bills to not be among the most penalized teams in the NFL when it comes to special teams. All right, folks, there you have it. A little special teams conversation here to close out the week. I hope you enjoyed. I hope you'll come on back. We have conversations coming for you every single day here on Locked On Bills. So don't miss anything. Make sure that you're subscribed. Would love it if you took a second to rate, review, and share the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.